So we'll move on to our 6.5, sitting as the Lake County Air Quality Management District Board of Directors, workshop and hearing for the draft replacement fee schedule, Rules 660 through 662, and updates to District Rules 208.2, 226.5, 433.5, 1002, and 1105, and repeal of District Rules 631, 12.450, and 12.640. And we have Doug Gearhart. Go ahead, Doug.
Good morning. There we go. Good morning. So this is a workshop to discuss the proposed rule amendments and new fee rule that we've been working on for quite a while now. We'll kind of go through this is a process that's required by Health and Safety Code. It's been legally noticed. It's, been out for public comment. We have not received any comment at this point. So hopefully we'll receive some comment and guidance here. So we can move forward. So with that, we'll start the presentation in 1 second, but I guess, yeah. There we go. So it is a very long presentation for anyone that tried to open it, but the actual presentation is just the first section, and then the rest is reference materials for questions and things. So the vast majority of it is not something that it will be part of the initial presentation itself. So, yep. There we go. Okay, so we'll just get started with this and then go from there. So, as you know, the Lake County Air Quality Management District, we're proposing some changes. These are, our fee rule is over 30 years old. The last time it was fully adjusted, we adopted a burn permit fee in 2003, and that is other than CPI, that's the only adjustments we've had since 1996. What we're proposing right now is a major structural change to our fee rule, because our fees it's the same structure that's been in place since 1975, and it is not clear, and people are constantly questioning where they fall, what permit category do they fall into. So we tried to come up with a way to make that extremely clear. Anyone can look at our fees table and determine what their fees are. So that's what this is a major change and major update. Of course, the workshops and hearing is intended to comply with Health and Safety Code 42311, and where we propose, this is all part of that Health and Safety Code. We have to propose the rule, do a presentation, accept public comment, and receive direction from the board prior to developing a final draft, which then gets reviewed by the state, by EPA, and then comes back to this board for a final review and consideration. So we'll start off with, we're starting off in the rules, and this is just by number order of the rules that we're proposing to change this year. Rule 208.2, it's tied to 226.5, which we'll go into next, but this comes first, so we're doing this one first. And we're making a slight change to add a correct reference to the agricultural burn hours, because this has burn hours, but it doesn't specify ag versus residential burning or non-ag burning. And so we're just tying it to the actual rule section that has agricultural burn hours in it. And then we have another optional rule related to 226, where we would potentially add some holidays, no burn days, as an option to consider. So we'll come back to that as we go forward. But so Rule 226.5 it's the definition. This is our annual burn ban. It's what we're proposing is to change the lifting of the annual burn ban with the new, over the last 5 years or so, fire hazard conditions have changed significantly, and Our rule has always been tied to CAL FIRE declaring an end to fire season, but with the change in fire hazard, we are in year-round fire season nowadays, and so CAL FIRE will no longer be issuing that declaration ending fire season. So we had to come up with a way to end the burn ban and without relying on that declaration anymore. So we've been able to work with CAL FIRE over the last few years but it has not been a clean process, and it's been messy, and we know the public's frustrated with it. So what we're proposing is to make a hard change and eliminate that issue, so that'll no longer be a problem. So what we have done is we look back the last 20 years of fire season declarations, and what we came up with is November 15th is the average lifting of the burn ban over the last 20 years. And so a complete equivalent rule would be to end fire season, the air district's burn ban on November 15th. We don't end fire season. I'm just so used to saying that with the lifting of our burn ban. So we would end our burn ban on November 15th. Now, as an alternate, we think November 1st is a very reasonable way to go, but we would have to have an offset to do that, and one offset, the primary offset that we would propose for this board would be to make specific holidays designated no burn days. Because certain holidays, people are with family, there's lots of community events, lots of people out and about doing things together, and those days are the days when smoke impacts are probably the most harmful and most impactful to the community. So that's our proposal to do a November 1st change would be to make specific, certain specific holidays no burn days. So we'll keep going, and then we'll come back to questions, because I know there'll probably be some. Rule 433.5. This rule is specific to residential exemption burn permits. So this allows us to issue a burn permit for lots that are less than 1 acre where there is no other feasible method to get rid of material. And currently, this requires a fire chief sign-off. And because fire chiefs are no longer issuing permits, we've been provided with that. We still coordinate with them, but because they are no longer issuing burn permits, we're updating the rule to remove that requirement. There'll still be coordination on these issues, but it'll eliminate that requirement so that they don't have to be signing permits, and people don't have to try and get in to get those signatures in order to get a burn permit for those few cases where we do have a residential exemption permit. So this is just making that correction so that we eliminate too many hassles for the public. Rule 631, this rule we're actually proposing to repeal at the moment. This is repeal Rule 631 because it's being incorporated into the master fee table. This is a fee rule that's not within the fee structure, so we're repealing it from 631 and moving it into the fee rule categories so that it's actually part of the fee rule section. So having fees scattered throughout the rule book is not something that's easy to track and not ideal. So this is Rule 660 and 662. This is the current district fee rule sections, and these are the ones adopted basically the same as they were in 1975. And what we are proposing is to basically repeal the whole fee rule section and then adopt a whole new fee rule structure, which I believe is 660 to 668. And as you've probably seen in the attachments, it is much more extensive than the current version. There are a lot of changes and a lot of modifications being proposed. So it's basically, it would mean nothing to do a strike-through underlined version, because we're basically wiping everything out and starting over, except for the introduction is basically the only thing that really is staying the same. This also, gets us much closer to a cost recovery, full cost recovery. Right now, we were just doing rough calculations. We're probably at 50 to 60% cost recovery on the permit programs. So, which means we're using reserves, grants, other things to offset, and a lot of salary savings from the short staffing we've had for the last 5+ years. So proposed fee rules are based on actual staff time. We evaluated each type of facility, how long it takes to issue permits, perform inspections, emissions, do reporting. We have lots of state and federal mandates, all of which are unfunded, and they are unfunded because the state and legislature passes laws and says districts have fee authority, therefore adopt a fee to pay for it. And so we haven't had to do that. We've been able to avoid that for, well, since I've been here, over 25 years. But we've gotten to the point where we're not able to sustain that. With the costs increasing so much in the last few years, staffing costs increasing and the need for additional staffing just to keep up with all the state mandates, we have to do a fee increase in order to survive and to meet all of the actual mandates that we have, much less to provide the customer service that the public expects. So some of the fee, some of the things that we're adding, we've also split out emission fees from permitting. So we're calling them emission fees. They are, these are fees that are based on the things that are impacted by the emissions from sources. So we have to do air monitoring. We have a lot of inspections, community issues that relate to sources that are not directly related to the permit for that source. And as we are strictly a fee-based entity, we have to cover the permitting costs plus all the district overhead and all the things that go into all the mandates that relate to air emissions from sources. So the emission fees.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what went into the fee studies?
That went, I mean, we looked at staff time for every single type of facility, basically this total staff time between, with 4 or 5 staff, what each person, each level of review, each level of staffing category and all the work that goes with that. So I don't know, what kind of detail are you asking?
Well, I just wanted to put that on the record because you're self-funded.
Right.
And the fees have to cover all of your time. And so that is how you came up with these new fees, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And the helpful thing was that, just to be aware, with contracting with Mendocino County, they were doing a fee study with a consultant at the same time. So I was able to take what they were doing and kind of model what we were doing based on the work that Mendocino was paying $30,000 for. So we saved a significant amount of money from just being able to follow that process, because I was working with them at the same time and monitoring it as well. So, so emission fees, these are based, like I said, in monitoring and other things. And this also provides us a method to incentivize cleaner technologies, because cleaner technologies require less monitoring, less impact, which means fewer complaints, fewer inspections are going to be required. So the cleaner, if someone invests a little bit extra in a better, cleaner engine or something, their annual permitting cost is going to be lower. So this is a way to do that and balance that cleaner technology, because the costs can be significant. So. We're also proposing to include CEQA review fees, pre-application reviews, indirect source rule fees, and a number of other additional administrative and pass-through fees. So there are a lot of things that we do that have been absorbed as part of our processes, and they are not funded at the moment. And so this would provide that funding. We spend a lot of time with CEQA, and there's no way to fund that. It's been an extra thing that we just haven't charged for in the past. So we've looked at CEQA review fees, but to pass a CEQA review fee without doing the whole fee schedule, it's a lot of work for a little bit of money. So we're including it now because we're doing the giant fee revision. So.
All right.
Okay, so rule update. Is that,
1,002.
is it 1,002?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was, okay, it might be 1,003. But, might be a typo. So this is the rule that lists the agencies that issue burn permits. And as the Fire Chiefs Association has sent us a letter saying that they're no longer participating in issuance of burn permits as of this last burn season, what we're proposing is to remove that list and then we're changing that regulations so that should there be a desire to come back into the permitting, we have a method that we don't have to recreate the process and update all the agency names and stuff. We can just come to an agreement on an annual basis to say, you want to issue permits, and we'll negotiate an agreement and go forward. So we're trying to simplify that process so it's a simple, almost a minor MOU type agreement instead of a full rule change update. So that's what this is doing, is taking that list out. The list was out of date anyway, so some of the agencies' names did not match what they were anymore, so it needed to be updated. So Rule 1105, this is the rule that's for agricultural burning hours. This rule we're proposing as a clarification because we're dealing with a couple of the other issues. This was the intent of the rule that was adopted 30 years ago, was to set agricultural burn hours as regular, so regular 9 to 3 hours, extended burn days, and then we have overnight and other special cases. But extended burn days were not specifically listed, even though the intent of the extended burn days was for agricultural operations. So we're just adding that into this rule and making it clear as to what those burn hours actually are, and defining extended burn days so that it's clear and anyone can follow it. So. And then these two rules, these are part of our Title V program, which is major source permits, which have to be, they go through EPA. It's like there's a few facilities that may become Title V in the future here, but at the moment we have no Title V sources. And these are rules that EPA has repealed. And when we adopted our rules, they were part of the federal requirement to adopt those rule sections. So EPA repealed them and said we can't use them, so they sent us a letter last year saying we have 2 years to repeal them. So we're proposing to repeal them and come into compliance. So, and so with that is the overview of what is being proposed, and then we can go into as much detail as you would like, and then get direction on what you would like to see for the burn ban lifting requirement, November 15th, November 1st, and what kind of offsets, or if you want to do November 1st, what you would like to see, or if you'd like us to go forward with some other idea. So,
All right. Vice Chair?
How many, if we were to go with the November 1st, when you said certain holidays, how many are we talking about that you have to take out to make up for that? Is it a equal number of days, or?
No, we think we can propose less than half. So what we were looking at was like Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, I think New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then Easter, and there may be, I have it. Oh,
Right here,
okay.
2082.
Yeah. So here we go. So the holidays would be, okay, so we had Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, and Easter. So,
And you would have to.
but that was just the list of what we thought, just because
Would we
those are
have to
community.
remove all of those to start on November 1st? Or is there any
There's,
leeway to maybe take some out and not others?
yeah, there's some leeway. We have to make a argument for equivalency, and so at the beginning of the burn season, not everyone has permits, so there is some flexibility that we can argue. But we do believe that holidays, some sort of would be a good day to say, because of the family events. But which holidays and stuff, I just gave you a specific list, so.
Right, which on that list, I see a lot of them where people probably wouldn't burn anyway on Christmas and
Right.
Thanksgiving because they're doing other stuff. But
Right.
some of
Well,
the other holidays where they might be off work, where they might try to take an opportunity. So
Right.
that's why I was wondering if we had any leeway with
Yeah, yeah.
the amount of holidays we're going to take out. I'm not opposed to starting it earlier
Yeah.
to give people more chance to get burning done
Right.
that we need to get done, so.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were thinking on some of those holidays, is that the impact to the community would be minimal for those that need to burn. That there are very few, especially ag and prescribed burners, that would be burning on
Right.
holidays. So it's just a few residential burners that would be impacted and on most of the holidays themselves.
Yeah, and then my other
So-
question was on I wasn't really able to tell, but do we have so the fees haven't gone up in a long time. Do we have a number of a percentage-wise, how much the jump would be on some of those fees?
Okay, yeah, the fees have gone up by CPI most years, so they have increased. But since 1996, CPI has, let's see, that CPI has gone up 122%, and what we're proposing, like for geothermal power, I grabbed a couple big ones because they would be the most obvious. Geothermal power plants, what we're proposing would be a total of a 75% increase from 1996. So we're still below what even CPI is from 96.
Okay,
So, yeah, that's kind of to give you a scale. Some facilities, gas stations will go up more because they've been undercharged for many years. The amount of staff time involved with gas stations is significant, and the fees that were charged were very low. So there are some cases where the fees will go up a lot more, but we are on the authority to construct and permit to operate renewal fees, we are capped at 15%. So they won't see that increase in 1 year. That increase for any existing facility that currently holds their permit and just is renewing it will be capped at 15%.
okay, thank you.
So it may be a number of years before.
Supervisor Pyska?
Well, I'm in favor of more burn days if we have to take holidays off, because that's essentially, if we start November 1st, we have a few more burn days than if we started on November 15th. And I would like to see a side-by-side analysis of the fees, because you kind of have to jump around a lot to see what the impact is.
Yeah.
So when you come back for that, so we can see what the increase is or what CPI, and if there's a big increase or it's spread out over years, just an annotation so that it's clear to us and the public.
Okay.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I was just going to say that was we were looking at doing that, but it was so challenging because of this structural change is such a significant difference that trying to come up with, which things are most important and which ones to compare would be.
I can see how that's
So
going to be
we
challenging,
can work
but,
on that.
I'm sure you'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah, we'll work on it, so.
Supervisor Sabatier and then Supervisor Owen.
I appreciate that last comment from Supervisor Pyska. Yeah, going back and forth, the whole thing, the categories don't fit the new categories. It's still category A, but it's no longer the same thing. So I would like to see a side-by-side. I would like to know, can this be split up in multiple years of increases rather than one fell swoop of increase?
I was going to say that.
Just because I'm a little confused also to what you said. You said in comparison to 1996, it's less than the CPI, but the CPI has been increasing. So are you saying that it's actually a decrease in comparison for geothermal, as you were using as an example, that they're going to see a decrease in their cost? Because that's
Right.
kind of what I got from your comment was in comparison to 1996, because in comparison to what it is as of now, currently on our fee structure, they're still looking at a significant increase.
Right. Yeah, since from 1996, not every CPI adjustment was done. So,
And-
I mean, a lot of them have been done, but I don't know what the history is, but just doing the quick look at the CPI, we haven't kept up with CPI.
And I'm just looking at the difference between what it costs today versus what it's going to cost tomorrow. And I agree with the side-by-side, a demolition to a demolition, gas station to a gas station. I have concerns, and you're split. You have a split where this is what it costs for a permit, and this is what it costs for the continuous use there's got to be a carrot somewhere in there. If you're using it exactly as you're supposed to and you're meeting the regulations of what has been expected of you and you're not going above and beyond what you are permitted for, what is the carrot for doing things right? And obviously there's a potential stick for if you do things wrong. I don't see any of that embedded other than it's a continuous fee. You continuously have to pay to be inspected and looked at. But I'm trying to figure out how do we embed carrots to get people to follow the rules, and then they have less of a burden because they're following the rules rather than just the intrinsic value of following the rules. Because again, we're just continuously asking for more and more money. Fees are always increasing because it's the easiest way for us to balance budgets. But at the same time, it all trickles down to business development, economic development, housing development, all things that we struggle with. And this concerns me on the impacts. I know it's needed. I don't want to say that it can't happen, but I would love to see that side by side, and I would love to better understand what kind of timeline can we look at and what kind of impact is this going to have. And November 1st, yes.
Supervisor Owen?
Yeah, I want to thank my other colleagues because they took most of what I had to ask, that has already been asked. I too was going to ask for the side-by-side. The burn holidays, have you had in the past complaints of anybody burning on holidays?
I have spent many New Year's Eve out dealing with violators.
Okay, so it was.
Big drunk parties with garbage.
So is it
Yeah,
currently
it's-
illegal for them to burn on holidays?
It is illegal to burn at night.
Oh, at night.
So,
Is that
yeah,
more
at
barbecue
10,
or
11 o'clock at
bonfire?
night, yeah, and dealing with illegal burners and stuff on New Year's Eve and
Okay,
other holidays, yeah.
okay.
So
But
it's-
that was already
concern, for
illegal, but I'm talking about legal burns.
Yeah, they're legal on holidays at the moment.
At
as
the
long as
moment,
it's an
and have
actual
you
burn
had
day.
complaints on that? Just
We,
curious.
we do get some periodically, so.
Okay, from people
yeah.
trying
It
to
just,
avoid.
yeah, it
that
depends on
was
the
just a
weather and the
question.
conditions and who's burning.
Sure, sure. And that was just a question. And then I didn't see where it stated, will it still end on May 1st
Yes,
each year? Okay.
yeah.
And I too like the idea of the November 1st to give us a few more days.
We had a feeling that would be the case, so that's why we put that in. I would, if I
Yes,
can
go
just
ahead.
comment real quick. So one of the things to consider is that an air district, we are funded by fees. So we have to charge a fee, and we're required by law to charge a fee to cover the cost of the district's program and regulating industry. So it's hard for us, we'll look at the carrot idea and try and come up with some ways and to deal with that, but trying to find a way that we can deal with the law that says there is no other funding source for us. We're precluded from most other sources that many air districts get, like the vehicle fees. Mendocino gets $500,000, roughly $500,000 for vehicle fees. If we could get something like that, our permit fees could be a lot lower, but we don't. So, and we were precluded by law because we're attainment from getting those. And then Prop 26 passed, and then they changed the law after Prop 26, and so we're still, the legislature acknowledged that that will never help us, removing that preclusion, but those are the things that we have to balance and have to deal with, is trying to come up with ways to fund the mandated activities, and I completely understand trying to get people into compliance, and just say it's not fun being out at midnight on New Year's Eve and looking, dealing with stuff, because we get those complaints, and we're out in geothermal driving around on Christmas Day, and because it's smelling out the community, and there's it's just one of their sources, something went wrong, and we're out tracking it down to figure out who to contact and which facility and stuff. So it trying to balance all these things and come up with ways to pay for it and keep people into compliance. Our goal is to get people into compliance and keep them there. So.
But my question was that more like just party fires, like campfires though?
It was a bonfire to dispose of a bunch of green mulberries and green waste debris, plus other debris
Okay.
that was in the fire.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was a burn pile
Oh,
that they were
Okay.
partying around on. Yeah, so
And mine was an orchard removal.
Go ahead.
yeah.
So to just enhance the side-by-side analysis that we're looking at, could you let us know for reference how many permits are in each category so we know, like, if one category only has a handful of permits, another category has a lot of permits, we can kind of understand the community impact?
Okay.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Hey, just a quick question. I'm ready to move forward today with the code
Yep.
changes, but would like to not send anything to the state until further analysis. I know we haven't talked about, like, coming back before that state process, so I just want to make sure and vocalize that happy to move forward with the code. Would love to have you come back before any further, anything for the fee structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I will open it up to the public. Come on up and state your name for the record.
Hello again, Tom Lasik again. I actually have a bit of a concern about the November 1st, November 15th date. So as I understand it, and I'm assuming I'm materially correct, but I could be completely wrong, that the CAL FIRE or the fire district decides or has decided in the past to lift a burn ban based on some sort of research regarding to risk and safety and things of that nature to avoid conflagration, for lack of a better term. And since that's no longer happening, if I understand you correctly, you took 20 years of data, came up with a date that was sort of the sweet spot, and maybe a variance that allows you to go to November 1st. The date that was selected in the past was, at least to some degree, based on risk and safety. Now, that data of when they lift the burn ban is going to go away, and we know things are getting warmer, and we already know it's a year-round fire season. So what are you going to do in 10 years or 12 years to reassess as to whether it be November 1st or November 15th, if that's still safe enough? Because you're going to have to, there should be something in the ordinance, I believe, that says that this date needs to be reviewed every 5 years, every 7 years to make sure it's still safe enough, because it might not be. Thank you.
Go ahead.
If I could respond to that. The process that currently exists and that will continue to exist, what will happen on November 1st, assuming that's what the board decides to go with, is that we will lift our burn ban and we'll be able to issue permits. But every day may be a no burn day due to fire hazard conditions. So the Fire Chiefs Association, CAL FIRE, they will let us know if it's safe to burn. So we do a daily burn day evaluation, and if they say, hey, we want no burn days for the next 2 weeks, it'll be no burn days for fire hazard for the next 2 weeks until they say it's safe. So we're gonna, that's already built in. Right now they can do that, and that'll continue to be in effect. They just notify us, and we coordinate with them on that. So the fire hazard is still determined by the fire agency. We don't overrule them, and there's a process in place.
All right. Any other public comment? Come on up, Chief Pat.
I do have one when they're done.
I want to make sure to get.
Yeah, yeah.
'cause it's-
Good morning, Patrick Wrights, Lakeport Fire Protection District Fire Chief. Before I go on with my comments, I have a question that I'd like a clarification on, because I didn't hear a true answer, and that is, who conducted your fee study? Was it done inside or was it done outside?
It was done inside.
It was done inside.
Yeah.
Because we're currently going through a fee study, and we can't adjust our rates without a nexus study. And in doing our research, we found that doing an internal study was not feasible for a lot of reasons, but it also doesn't hold up in court. It will be soundly rejected that we had to use an outside third party, independent, to do our fee study for our fees to hold up in court if they were ever challenged. So I would want to bring that attention to the board, that an internal fee study may not stand if it is challenged, because you're not using sources that may or may not be qualified. There's a whole lot of things that go into that equation. And I'm not challenging your qualifications to do your own fee study. What I'm challenging is that what I was instructed, because we're currently going through a fee study as well and wrapping that up. And we just got done doing that Nexus study this last year on our ambulance, not only our ambulance rates, but our mitigation fees countywide, as the board is very familiar with. The next thing I would like to talk about is I have some serious concerns over burn days and burn permits and issuing. You're suggesting that we're going to increase burn permit fees to $60, and there's no doubt that we need to adjust. I'm not arguing what the rates should or shouldn't be. I want to just call the attention to the board that the last 2 years, we've received numerous complaints of folks that have not been able to get their permits, that the agency has been, air quality has been non-responsive to phone calls. Their gates have been locked, their doors have been locked, they're not keeping normal office hours, and so on and so forth. We have a population in this county that is not computer savvy or does not have access to be able to get their permits online. And the agency has not been cooperative or forthcoming in allowing people to get their permits. And these are people who have been getting permits for years. And they come into our office frustrated, upset, and there's not a thing we can do except to send them back to air quality and to also send them to their local supervisor. So I just want to call the attention to the customer service. It was brought up in your discussion, understanding that you are fee supported, and I would expect that if you're going to increase our fees to come into the year 2025, as we need to, no argument there, but that we could see a corresponding increase back to normal when it comes to customer service and being responsive to issuing burn permits to our folks. We have a lot of fuel out there, and this isn't helping when we can't get these piles burned, because if you drive around the county right now, we have a lot of piles that didn't get burned before May 1st. These are not new piles that just started after May 1st. These are piles that were never burned for whatever reason. Whether they could get permits, couldn't get permits, didn't have labor, don't have time, don't have water, so on and so forth. So I want to just call your attention. There's a lot of fuel out there. And then lastly, I do want to compliment the county, and I want to compliment your agency, because I remember seeing a press release not that long ago that we were in the top 25 counties of the United States for having clean air. And I want to commend you for that. But at the same time, I need to get some air dirty, because we got to get some fuel burn up out there. And it is contributing to our fire problem, and that is going to contribute to the spread of fire. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Pat. Chief Pat, sorry. Chief Paul.
Paul Duncan, CAL FIRE. So I want to thank Doug just for reading this ordinance and all the work that went into it. So thank you very much. That's some serious work, and it's been needed updating for a bit. So thank you. And I did want to add, so just kind of to Tom's comment that what about if there's fire hazard days and we still are allowing burning? Doug works really close with us, just like we do with Doug. If we have some day that's a red flag in January, that we are able to not allow burning on that day just for fire safety. So not only do they take the air quality into account, they also take the fire hazard into account. So that's, so we do, Tom, we do that already. The $60 residential burn permit does have me concerned a little bit just because of the jump. And we do want to encourage burning for our residents, because we have a lot of lots, we have a lot of debris, as Pat said, built up on them. So we really want to eliminate those before fire season. So maybe an incremental increase in that would be something to look at, just so they're not shocked with a $60 fee from a $20 fee. That's it. Thank you.
Any other public input? And on Zoom, I'll bring it back to the board, and I know that Supervisor Owen was first, then Supervisor Sabatier.
In the past, as I recall, it was after the first good rains is when you opened up your burn. It wasn't a date, it was rather when we got some wet.
Well,
Is that correct?
historically, CAL FIRE would end fire season after 2 inches of rain.
2 inches.
That
Okay, I
was
didn't know that.
historic.
Yeah.
You know, that's been a long time, but
Right,
yeah,
sure.
now it's
Now
quite a
it's-
different process for them, so they'll have to
Oh,
explain
okay.
their process.
So, what do you, I mean, like, if we get early rains, like, and we get some pretty good early rains, as we have seen, occasionally, in September, early October, would that cut out, then we still have to wait till November? What I'm asking is, would that affect us?
That would go into the process that we have currently, which is an exemption process. So once CAL FIRE determines that the high fire conditions are over so that some burning can occur, then we have an exemption process, which still requires, they can come to us if they have a need to burn. And then they get the fire department to say it's fire safe, and then we can issue a permit and they can do burning in that time window. But it requires a need and fire safety determination from the fire agency.
So if we get
So-
some early rains, that would still be a possibility? Okay,
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
And that exists now, and that exists after May 1st too. So,
Okay.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Those are special permits, though.
yeah,
It's not for any permit.
it's for need, yeah.
Thank you. Just real quick, I have detailed questions on the new fees, but I'm waiting for that side by side because I too have certain concerns. We want these fees to be conducive to people following the rules and getting these things accomplished, not drive people away from participating in some of the things that we want them to participate in. I did ask Mr. Gerhardt for his fee study, where we do our fee studies internally at the county. I can't speak if that's an exact replica of how the process works for air quality control, for the fact that air quality is this hybrid state-county model, while I think the fire districts have specific rules and regulations of how their nexus studies need to be done based by legislative action. So I appreciate that I've received that. I hope that others can ask for that because it should be public information to know how you got to those fees. And I'm going to stop right there.
So
Go ahead.
if I, just a quick, yeah, we will make that available. It needed some cleanup, because that is a working document and not quite available or ready for public release with, issues in it still that need to be cleared out and cleaned up. As for the fee study requirement, the district actually isn't required to do a fee study. That's just, board direction for any fee increase to do an evaluation. So we're not actually required to. Under Health and Safety Code, it is we come to the board with a new fee and the board can adopt it or not. So it doesn't require study, it doesn't require anything. So rules and regulations are a little different, and I mean even different from the county's process. But just as a note, we issued, was it 2019 permits this year, burn permits this year, and it was 1,900 last year. So we saw a significant increase in just burn permits in this year, and we probably issued 200-300 over the phone, helping people who needed help. So the most of the calls that we received were in the first few weeks of the burn season, where we were still trying to get the system up and running, and there were a lot of issues with AT&T, of course, taking out the whole South Main Street phone system, and so there were a lot of communication issues during that early part of the burn season, which created a lot of hassle. So we were helping a lot of people by email as well during that time, just to get past the phone issues, and by cell phone. So
Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, and I just want to point out that it was confusing with the change in CAL FIRE,
yeah.
CAL FIRE's declaration. And so working with you and the board, we wanted to make sure that we were changing the
Right.
rules so that it's easier. So the public can get their burn permits faster. So we've got a new online system, and now we've got new rules. So there's clarity. So as difficult as it was this last year, this is progress. So I appreciate you bringing this to us. But let's move quickly on adopting these rules so that we don't have any more issues in the fall. And, you did bring this to us much sooner than I expected, so thank you.
Right. Well, it's
and
been in the
then-
works for a couple of years.
Yeah, well,
Building it, so.
good job. Yeah, so hopefully we will have a much smoother November 1st this year. And a lot easier for the public to get their burn permits and get on their way as soon as we get the rain.
So it looks like, do you have the direction you need?
Have a couple questions still.
Okay.
First is one, we would much rather bring all of these rules together because if we submit the burn rules without the fee rule, then we have to do the fee rule separately. We're creating two separate tracks of equivalency of work where if we can get the fee rule back to you fairly soon and still meet all their timelines, is that acceptable? And then if something delays it at that point, then we'll move forward.
What's
with the
your
other.
expected timeline?
A few weeks, we can get it, hopefully in early July, we can have the draft back to you.
good with that.
Good.
Would be my goal.
Works for me.
You have 3 or 4 people shaking their heads, so you're
Okay.
good to go.
Because
Nodding.
the amount of work to go through the
Shaking
rule
is- yeah,
adoption
you're right,
process with
nodding,
the state and
yeah.
EPA is significant, so we'd much rather send it all as one packet because
Okay.
we have to send, a full packet and reports and all sorts of stuff, so.
Was there another one too, you said?
The other question was, so we want November 1st. Do you want
Yeah.
what holidays, or do you want the full list, or what would you
Full
like us
list.
to proceed with?
I think
the
the
full
full
list.
list would help, right?
Or,
What's the minimum number of days that you have to have on there as holidays?
whatever the state and EPA will accept. So this has to go to them for equivalency, and we have to be able to prove to them equivalency. So
The-
I don't know what they will accept, so.
I just think Easter, if we can get rid of Easter, that would be fine. So many people don't celebrate that, and it's getting to the end of burn season.
Yeah, Easter Sunday isn't always in burn season, and so, but, if it's like the last day of burn season and you have all the Easter events out, that's why we were thinking that it would only be occasionally in.
But a year like this, where it's like, ooh, we're getting to the end
Right.
of burn season, we need to burn.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people, and especially on bigger properties and stuff,
Right.
A lot of these holidays, that's when people are off and they can do it for
Right.
themselves.
Right.
So I would say the minimum
yeah.
that we need.
And what we can do, with the no burn days, that would be for general burning. We can still issue an exemption on people that have big properties that are out away and there's no impact in the community. So we can do an exemption for specific cases where there's big burns that need to happen.
Well,
that
this
are
would be-
outside of where there would be a potential
I'm talking
impact.
the
So,
general public,
Yeah.
if they're not working, if they have the weekend off or they have the holiday off,
Yeah.
they might want to get some work done at home, especially if it's nice enough weather.
Yeah, but you have to remember what we're balancing the community impact from the smoke. So you have the
Sure.
individual doing the burning that wants to burning, but then you also have the community impact and
Well,
the health
but
of
I
the
mean, the
reality
So,
obvious,
so you have to balance those things.
well, I'm
That's why
saying,
I'm
I
bringing it
just,
up,
that's
so,
my
yeah.
own personal is the minimum.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Just last thing, I apologize. Here on proposed 226.5, I'll skip the first sentence because that's the November 1st. But in the event that fire and meteorological conditions in the air basin warrant, the Lake County Board of Supervisors or Lake County Air Quality Management District Board of Directors may request the district declare no burn days. I'm feeling awkward about that we would have to have a meeting on a Tuesday to tell you not to do a burn day, so that's never going to happen. But Lake County Fire Districts or CAL FIRE is not there. Should they be added to that list, since you just told us that in coordination with them, that's how you will decide what no burn days are? Or is that like already in the general form of things?
that's already in the general,
Okay.
that's part of the burn day decision process. That's a state issue. It doesn't have to be in our specific rules, so that's already exists in law. So this just enables, so like if there's a major fire in Napa County and it's really dangerous up here, but everyone's dealing with that issue down there, so there's no one to call and make a burn decision and say, don't burn up here. The board could come together and say, hey, let's make it no burn days because everyone is swamped with this other thing. So it's in those rare cases where there'd be an emergency that you would need to or want to deal with something.
Okay, thank you.
So,
I think what I was trying to say earlier was the reality is if we don't get a lot of this vegetation out of the way, we will have a lot of smoke happening anyhow because we'll, the fires. So anyhow, I think we answered your questions. We're good to go. All right. So we will come back when you are ready with the other
we will get that moving.
material and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Susan?